It is still the conversation here on Lagos Television, and on this side we'll be discussing a very crucial topic, Lagos politics and the separation of powers. In any democracy, the separation of powers among the executive, legislature, and judiciary is meant to guarantee checks and balances, transparency, and good governance. But how effectively does this principle play out in Lagos politics? And what challenges exist in ensuring true accountability and independence of each arm of government? Now, that is one question that I will not be giving an answer to. I have with me here our guest is in the studio to help us understand this better. He is joining us, Are Oladotun Hassan. He is a lawyer and president of the Yoruba Council Worldwide. You're welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here this morning. Good morning, viewers at home.
Good morning. Just before we go into business of today, let's just drift a bit from our conversation for today. There was a communique released by your organization regarding the dispute between Dangote and unpack. Let's understand, what is your official stand on this? Well,
our official stand is that Dangote has come to stay, and we have to give it all the necessary support. In view of the fact that there are crises from the unpack, DAPMAN, and all other sister union in the oil and gas, their concerns are being considered, and we've seen it. And having considered those concerns, we just realized that it's only predicated on misinformation, that Dangote is not monopolizing the oil and gas sector. He was given, alongside with him, over 30 licenses. And so being a woman who was able to stand the hot and to ensure that there is price reduction in the pump price of petroleum products, we believe that rallying around him at this period is a collective responsibility. And we've implored the president to nationalize our oil well, enough of the moribund oil well, so that maybe Dangote should be given a license to go into oil exploration, from exploration to refining, and if possible, let him have his petrol filling station across the country, so that Nigerians can know that we want to buy fuel at 100 naira per liter. Because this is our commodity, so we should not be paying hard. And the unpack and all these unions are demanding 70 naira to be added on each of liter. And he said no. Then who is now fighting for us? Is it the unpack or Dangote? So if Dangote is fighting for the people, then we have to stand by him as a people.
This is one conversation for
Thank you
another
very much
day, but I just wanted to get your stand on it. But now let's go into the business of today, Lagos politics and separation of powers. Now, when we talk about separation of power, what does the principle of separation of power really mean in practical terms, especially for a state like Lagos?
Well, it's not just Lagos we are discussing, say, in a democratic society, and it's a global standard practice. We have three arms of government: the executive, legislature, and the judiciary. What makes it democracy is because it's government of the people, for the people, and by the people. The people comes first in any democratic society, different from military rule, whereby everything is by fiat, and there's no room for checks and balance. There's no room for for checkmating each other and to oversight. There is no room for oversight. And oversight is a very important aspect of democracy in order to avoid dictatorial tendencies. And this, to many, is far-reaching. As far as the country is concerned, Nigeria is a democratic state. And that is why you can see the way the president is also moving. No matter all his policies, is subjected to the National Assembly. And where there are issues of conflict, it goes to the judiciary to interpret the law, considering the recent issue of the Lagos of the local government autonomy. President needed to go to the Supreme Court. He didn't say that because he's president, he should use the fiat to impose his orders. So Lagos is a center of excellence, and this is a state whereby other states sees Lagos as a pathfinder. And when you talk about democratic ethos, this is where it is really the bedrock, because every policies in terms of laws and order and the way things are being guided, you can see from every governors knows their limits. The state assembly equally knows their powers and responsibility. And judiciary in Lagos is working by excellence. So you can never see a crossroad. Rather, they work like a Siamese. There is checks and balance. There is always every room. Even recently, we saw in the recent media whereby the speaker needed to summon the governor to bring in to report through the head of service to submit all the names of appointees of government that have not gone through screening, meaning they are not sleeping on their duties. It goes to say that beyond being of the same political party, they still represent democratic ethos, and that is what democracy needs to see. And we are very proud as an organization, Yoruba Council Worldwide. We've looked at it and we find out that yes, this is the way to go. Whereby even if there are skirmishes and there are issues, democracy needs not be a straight line. Because of the checks and balance, you can never expect you to have a smiling moment every time. There must always be need for conflict, and if it is a robust conflict for the benefit of the people, it's all well and good.
Still riding on the point that you've raised. Now, I want us to talk about the arms of government and the respect of boundaries, or do I say the limit of their powers? I just want you to expatiate more on that.
Yeah.
And then what will be the ripple effect if any of the arms decides to overstep their boundaries?
Well, it's very important that it's a trite principle that the executive under the Constitution are meant to ensure the absolute welfare of the people, execute all activities of government, and ensure that daily activities of government are met. So those are principles that the executive under the headship of His Excellency Mr. Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu, and to me, he's always been a performing governor. We have seen that in every of his activities, he has this candor of Omoluabi in him. I've never seen is in his face. Maybe there is always a squeeze on his face before. I don't know how he managed to do it, but in this climb, we are in a democratic state, and he has been doing that which is of his duties. And in terms of the call, which is the legislature, which is headed by another performing speaker, Obasa is an experienced legislature. He has been there for over, at least, we cannot say no, but at least he has spent quite about 3 tenures as a member of the over 3 tenure now. And he's been there for many years. So he understands his duty, but we cannot always see everything with one eyes. There is always politics also behind the scene. Everybody has their own intention and modus operandi, knowing fully well there was just a recent crisis that was resolved by President himself between the speaker and the executive. So, and to many, the whatever that is going on should not be seen from the prism of politics, but rather for good governance. And the legislature, their duties by constitution is to perform oversight. Oversight is to ensure proper evaluation and monitoring of every department of government, from the ministries to agencies of government, even to governors himself, from budget to execution of those budgets, to monitoring of effectiveness of those budgets, and report of those budget itself or those activities. Even through the legislative arm of government, it is the easiest way for the public to have their say in governance, because they have a public petitions committee that every individual as a member of the public can go to challenge the governor through that committee, or to ask or to make any input, or equally to provide their support. So these are robust synergy. It is not a division. When we say 3 arms, doesn't mean that they have to operate at par. They will operate as a Siamese together. And it's the glowing part is the fact that we have not seen a fist cuff. Just as the speaker mentioned, this is just part of their duty that they are doing, and it is need for them to do it. And we've seen what Honorable Elliott and some other members mentioned, that yes, they are doing their duty. So it is not that they are fighting Mr. Governor. So Mr. Governor is needed. That, well, it might have been as a means of, sometimes only relationship as a family. there are some certain things you can do. It is not overdoing, it's not overstep, but is you believe that yes, this person, you know, these are performing. Anybody the governor might have appointed, he himself must have known that these people are capable, fit, and proper. But it's duty bound to present them to the State House of Assembly for due process. But most times, politics also play, or maybe let me say, for necessity. Let me put it to the governor. The governor must have done it out of necessity. And when something becomes necessity, it is not an oversight. He believes that, well, due process will still be retroactivated, be done duly, and at appropriate time. Since those people will still go through the screening, doesn't mean that they will be disqualified, but they just have to go present their credentials.
I'm going to hold you on what you have just said, but my colleague over there has a question for you.
Yes, it's just again on what you're explaining, just so that we can have a better understanding of you know, the oversight that you're explaining here. We do know that the Lagos State House of Assembly has oversight, and since we're also talking about separation of powers here, help us understand. And you know, from some quarters, people would always say, oh, the assembly is usually a rubber stamp, especially when they are same party members. So please tell us, when, especially what we have at the Lagos State House of Assembly, take us through this. What is currently on ground here? Would you say that it is good for democracy? And I mean, is this really a rubber stamp assembly?
Well, the assembly from time have not been a rubber stamp. From Memorial to other speakers that have, even when Asiwaju was leading as a governor, you see Asiwaju when he was the governor of the state, even during Ambode Fashola, it's always a rigorous. They stay even more time, even till wee hours of the night, on some certain issues of the state. So meaning that there is no rubber stamp assembly. Though in some states, in some climes, you see rubber stamp, and the fact that the governor cannot even do, you see some assembly member kneeling down for governor, to all because of them gaining favoritism from the governor. But Lagos, that I know, and the kind of members that are in the State House of Assembly, they are competent, gear with people of sound mind. So, and every member is representing their constituency, and they have a voice. The fact that they work closely under the same political party, the means of them checkmating each other doesn't represent the State Assembly as a rubber stamp. And just like I rightly said, in the way things are going in the state, we have to equally look at is there politics, hand of Esau and voice of Jacob? Is there some other things that are playing underwater current that we don't see? But if those things are equally going pari passu, and I think with the way it's going, it's still within one family. I think it doesn't require an external interference, because everybody knows their duty. And if the governor is performing his duty, let the speaker also speak for maybe do the duty very well. And we can always say that the three arms of government in Lagos State, from the executive to the to legislature and the judiciary, there is always principle of separation of power, and it is crystal clear to the blind that what is going on in Lagos State is a pedestal of performance. And if a government is performing, though there are still areas of improvement that citizens value communication, like we used to have under Fashola. There is this tabloid called Indicator. It gives the citizen at least a free distribution. You always see it everywhere. Maybe it's not like before. I think I want to tell the Mr. Governor to take that as a point, because the people is the first bedrock of checkmate. The people are are to checkmate every arm of government because we is a government of we the people, for the people, and by the people. So out of all these three, the most important arm of government, which is the mother body of all harm, is the people. So Mr. Governor, equally as he's being checkmated by the State Assembly, he should make himself available more to the people, do more of town hall meetings. Under Fashola, under Asiwaju, he's doing his own too. But we need to bring those good old days that brings governance close to every local government, every 5 divisions. You see them having town halls, not just on crisis situation, but there are some other issues If you go to some particular area, they have issue of land grabbing, they have issue of water erosion. Some areas are issue of security. Every clan have their own preferential issues. So this, to me, should equally come to the fore. But what I want to advise is that let's not play politics of bitterness. However, 2027 election is coming. There is bickering who is to take over from Sanwo-Olu. You can never expect Sanwo-Olu not to have a political interest. Every politician, number one priority is interest. But I know they will definitely have a way out of solving this as a family affair. And I'm very optimistic that this shouldn't be a matter that will cause any uproar or create any fear in the states.
Okay, I want to take you up on something you said before you answered her question. You were saying something about when these appointees are being presented, will be presented, is just for necessity, or to put it to fulfill all righteousness. So my question is still talking about the oversight functions of the legislator now. Do they have the right, or do they have the power to disqualify if that candidate or that appointee does not meet up to standard?
Yes, they do.
Even though the governor has sent it.
They do. They do. You know, there are some statutory, not all officers or appointees are meant to be screened by the State Assembly. There are some statutory department of government that are expected to be screened by the State House of Assembly, especially department of government that are under the Act of the Lagos State law. And if such agencies of government are under such, and they have to also be present their budget and also to also make input to the state development, such appointees are meant to be screened. So, but in terms of capacity, whatever is now the reason why they have to screen them out, you've seen the president presenting nominee to the National Assembly, and they have been screened out. Yeah, even some even pass, and security do not pass them. Some might even have one or two issues for them to clear. So it is a rule that the most important aspect, which I say, is that the people of Lagos must equally pay attention. It seems we've left so many things in the hand of government to be doing, and there is no the communal interaction, just like what we are doing here, is called conversation. I think Mr. Governor should detail your program and copy and begin to engage more, because just as I'm not changing my word, the State Assembly has powers, even more power to remove a governor, not just the appointee. That is as much power as they will. But in terms of what they are doing, or what the Mr. Governor is doing, is not ultra virus of the law. For the fact that Mr. Governor is here to present, Mr. Governor did not say he's not presenting. He's only here to present, and they have requested present, even if these people have been performing, have been doing their duties, because we are almost in the second year of the administration. So going into third year of the year, so meaning the tenure of the government itself, it needs to is already in the middle. So it's not that maybe the government is just starting afresh. This is a government that they are kicked off in over 2 years ago. So whatever that is happening now is just a going forward in daily activities of government. So people should not just see that is it that all the commissioners that the governor presented commissioner, they screened them. Even some were screened out. Maybe if you remember, some were screened out. Even some were appointments were reviewed from commissioner to SA because of capacity and courage. Some were re-advised of what office they should be given. So the House of Assembly have not been docile. So they are doing their duty, unless all of us as a people in Lagos begin to show them support at appropriate time. But just as I rightly say, it should not be a politics of bitterness, because when bitterness creeps in, it will destroy the real fabrics of governance. Governance is not you throwing banters as assembly, summoning governor. But when there is hatred, that maybe you see that more often in whereby the State Assembly have opposition party and the governor is coming from another party. In such a fist cup most of the time, they deliberately witch hunt the government.
And that's the case of personal interest.
That's
now.
where personal interest creeps in. And that's where we're trying to advise that if the legislature are doing their duty, performing to the truth, they should not hide any iota of bitterness in whatever they are doing. And in some statement that I read, just like Elliot and some other honorable members admitted, to me they need to douse down those tones, because there are some tone I saw in their commentary in the house. Yes, they have duty as a member, as a lawyer. I know, yes, you have a duty to express your views and all that, but such views shouldn't be from the harsh point of notes.
It could be better constructed.
It should be better constructed, because that's an advice to the assembly.
Just a question.
Well, so still talking about the principles of separation of powers, are there risks involved when one arm of government tends to supersede another one? Because you've explained here that, you know, the executive has a role to play, the legislature has a role to play, even though we haven't talked much about the judiciary here. But let's look at the democratic setting that we are here in Nigeria. Are there certain risks involved when it feels like one arm of government is dominating the other?
Well, there is a high risk of dictatorship if one arm is overreaching, not even oversight now. Overreaching is or acting ultra-virus. Ultra-virus means you're acting beyond your constitutional bounds, and you are now committing an arbitrary mode of action, and then it will lead to chaos. And when such evaporates from the government house, when fire burns from the government house, you can't expect the people not to be affected. It will lead to a lot of communal and street fights. And that shouldn't be, because if the governor is mobilizing his own people and the speaker is to mobilize his own people, it will not be the kind of situation we want to see. And before it gets to that point, that's why we're advising that it's a risk for any government to shut down the order. It's a big risk. Even the state assembly needed to be very careful. That was what was to happen in Rivers State. If Mr. President had not used his Solomonic wisdom to intervene, even out of Wike's knowledge, because if Wike has been consulted that I'm to put the governor on suspension or to put an interim administrator in the state, Wike will say, no, it's as if you want to shortchange me. But the president did that, having considered that this is a necessity, because at that crystal point, both the executive and the legislature at each other's throat. The legislature definitely have the constitutional power to perform their duty. But if you perform a rightful duty at the wrong time, it will cause implosion. For the fact that they have duty to impeach the governor, and they have served impeachment notice, and they have the number to impeach the governor, and in the politics of Nigeria, people can sit in an amala joint and with the mates there and say they are already seated and they move a motion of impeachment. They need not sit. The governor went to demolish the State House of Assembly thinking if they get there, they will not be able to have a seat. But they can sit in their classroom and move a motion. And it was already getting to that point that they have secured a private residence of their place to convert as their sitting place. And that politics is not even more politics, it's now politics. They are tricking each other deceitfully, endangering the state. The state players are already lifting firearms at the pitch of that crisis during the local government election in that state. So you can see the dangers of what could happen if there is crisis between the legislature and the executive.
Okay, this would riding on this question that you are treating at the moment. So how does a weak or strong separation of power affect the democracy of a state?
If it's a weak separation of power, it will become a very dilly-dallying situation. It will amount to deceit. It will amount to overreaching. It will even lead to firebrand corruption. Firebrand means that everybody takes whatever they can pick. It just become all commerce affair. So that means that if you have a weak legislature, the governor can be overstepping, and that's where you see members of the House kneeling down to the governor, wanting to collect contract, or they themselves are looking for one or two favor from government. So it's a risk for us to have a weak, and also if you have a strong, balanced legislature and an executive, if you have a weak executive, it's a problem. If you equally have a weak legislature, it's a problem. But if you have a balanced structure, people that have strong and bold mind to deliver governance, is for the betterment of the people, not to those strong. It's not about strong men. It's about the institution now. We lean to talk about strong men in this country. How much can this person overreach himself and make himself for more powerful? But rather, the institution now is what we are talking. The executive as an institution. In Lagos, we have a very bold and fearless executive that are doing their jobs. The legislature too have not left their duty post. So whatever they are doing at the moment is part of governance. And I believe strongly the judiciary, which is every lawyer's home base, we've not always leave the shores to letting them do it the way anyhow. There's always checkmate. There's always checks and balance. There's always societal balancing. Because if any harm fails, it will lead to total chaos and disorder.
So are you clearly stating now that Lagos politics is more institutionalized than?
Yeah, Lagos politics to me to me I'll call it a pathfinder of democracy. Lagos is a pathfinder, meaning it's almost every state comes to Lagos to come and to copy activities from Lagos State. So it's not that maybe Lagos is just teaching mode of the policies of government, even legislative laws like the ACJL laws of criminal justice system. Lagos is the state that it starts from. The child right law starts from Lagos. Almost every law that is now being copied even to the National Assembly comes from Lagos. Lagos to this country as is like a watch. It's a training field of democracy. So Lagos governor, Lagos speaker should see themselves beyond being overseeing their state alone. They are more as an exemplary mentor to every other state governor. Thankfully, Mr. Governor is the chairman of Southwest Governors Forum. The speaker has been the chairman of all speakers forum too before now. So meaning there is larger responsibility on their shoulders. So then they should see that Nigeria belongs to all of us. Lagos State belongs to all of us. And the need for the people to be considered in every of their duties is also paramount. There are a lot of issues that the people themselves have their own interest to present. There should be room of those delivery of their interests. They should not limit it to their cronies and families alone that can have access to them. There should be more access to government, and that will promote the real duty definition of democracy.
Let's backtrack a bit before Joy's last question to you, where, of course, you talked about your own constituency, which is the judiciary. And because the judiciary is also one arm of the government, let's look at political influence or funding on the judiciary here in Lagos, because we're using Lagos as a model. So how would you gauge the influence on the judiciary? Because many have also said there's also like a little tinkering or political influence on the judiciary, which is also likely to cause, a little bit of check on the other arms of government by the judiciary. Where do you stand on this?
Well, I'm a beneficiary of the sourcing delivery of justice system in Lagos State. I've fought so many interests as a public interest lawyer, and we've advocated for so many things, and the judiciary have delivered sourcing judgment, even sometimes against the state government. So it doesn't mean the eyes of the law of Lagos judiciary does not know either is executive or legislature. If they treat real issues, and I'm not boasting here just to soothsayer or to pamper anybody here. The CJ of Lagos is a great man of repute. He's a man of respect. So, and he's somebody that I value so much by virtue of his experience. So, I believe strongly that as far as Lagos is concerned, under his watchful eyes, is not a man that can be intimidated by anyone. By his fatherly posture, he's more even elderly than both the speaker and the governor. So he has a more bigger experience. If not, his fatherly posture has equally strictly balanced the opium of governance in the state. So, and I believe strongly that the only way to advise is that we lawyers, most of the times, are problems sometimes. We just need to be very conscious of the kind of how we present cases. How can we now ensure ADR, alternative dispute resolution? Not all matters needs to go to court. There are some matters that you can advise your client rightly, and if your client falls short of the law, tell him the truth. Not always going behind technicalities and all that. Thinking if you think you go through technicality will make you win cases. Most of the times, a lot of lawyers hide under technicalities. But for Lagos judges that I know, they unbundle cases and they go truly thoroughly on all cases. And I can't, in my own view, see that or castigate that the Lagos judiciary is fall short of that balancing. They perform excellently well, and I can guarantee that to anyone.
Okay, beyond Lagos now, general question. How much freedom do judges really have from politicians?
Well, the judges are free. It's only personal to anyone to now determine to what extent of corruption is he or she is involved in. But in terms of what we know or how we see things, it is not a clean slate. I can't say that it's a clean slate all over the country. There are a lot of issues in terms of judges of not being with politicians, or there are undercurrent of communication between lawyers and judges. Do you know that judges don't just become judges? It is lawyer that became a judge. So you can't just see somebody emanating to be a judge out of the hood. It's a lawyer after 10 years you are determined to become a judge. If I had wanted to get, I would call it become one. But I chose just to maintain my public interest because I believe strongly that everyone knows their core duty. So it's a clarion call to judges or lawyers who indulge in such malpractice to stay off, because it impedes development. It does not grow our democracy, and it causes a lot of ripple effect. It most of the time leads to anarchy, whereby people will no longer trust judgments of the court. So it's very important that judges should be conscious, especially in awarding damages, in awarding, in also leading to bail terms. And this is where it comes. I want to advise Mr. Governor. Bail terms, the way it goes to people, there should be subtle way, because someone might be granted bail and the person will remain in prison for 10, 15 years. He's on bail, but because the bail terms are unimaginably out of reach of such individual. A poor man that does not, maybe is even innocent of the crime, and he's been given a bail term of 20 million naira. No matter how you want to tell the man to leave the prison, it will be the hands of the law will not allow such. And law should be given a life whereby there should be a free mode of delivery, whereby Mr. Governor should look into that. Look through, I know the Attorney General of the state, Mr. Lawal Pedro, is a performing AG. Someone is a man of rightful thinking that I confidently know that he's doing his jobs. But it's more important that there should be a more public hearing, maybe via town hall. People, a lot of, even we know the correctional centers are there, but there is more that can be done in terms of awaiting trials. People that are doing awaiting trial, and they've even spent over time of their time they need to be that have been served that punishment, should be granted relief, so that even if the judgment is going to haven't served more than the term, if it were to be the maximum term, then such person should be considered to be coming from home. Because if at the end of the day you are convicted, you have already served the time already in prison. So for it not to be a double jeopardy, the governor needs to open a bracket and work with the NBA, work with lawyers. The amount of lawyers that are in the judiciary are not enough. So you should work and create a synergy whereby if it is a stipend, they'll be paying those lawyers that will be joining them. Because even a lot of cases that need intervention are not taken to intervene because of lack of funding to do it. So governor should have the government should have a pro bono section to work with the people. If people, and I know government is doing the multi-door week period, but multi-door should not just come seasonal. Let it be a daily 360-day affair. If you do it seasonal, that oh, this is the like a Christmas that oh, the government is now doing multi-door, bring your cases for free for this month. And then what about the following month that we have more cases? So the government should do more. All these are advisory to the government to take note that the judiciary is more overwhelmed, very, very overwhelmed. So there is need to build more courts. There is need to enlarge the scale of justice in terms of having more of ADR centers.
Okay, time is not on our side, but again, this is going to be a two-in-one question. Now, this is about the people. First question is, how much trust do you think the people have in the judiciary? And then what are the roles of the people in ensuring that these three arms of government, we keep them in check?
Well, the people they have hope in government, not in the judiciary. I can't say everybody because of the kind of let me say the overview, the general overview, not Lagos now, because we can't put that on Lagos. Because general overview is that the court is only for the politician. They know how to go about it. Judges will put up technicalities to put up judgment, even judgment that are not sound or reasonable. You see them being delivered as a judgment. So most of the times, reasonableness should also be considered. Forcibility rule should be, and public policy, public perception. You might be doing something that you think is right, but it contravenes public policy. So, and also to reassure the people, because we cannot be a law in our own cause. We cannot be a judge in your cause. You have to, we all still need our judiciary. It is still the last hope of every man, not the common man now. Okay, if you say every man, including the high and the mighty and the common people. So the common man is not the only owner of the judiciary. It's not his only hope. It's the hope of everyone. And I believe under Justice Kekereekun, you can see the discipline, the high-level discipline of disciplining. He has summoned about 4 or 5 judges under lordship tenure now as the CJ. So you can't, if you look at Justice Alugba, CJ in Lagos, there is discipline. The CJ of the Federation too has instilled high-level discipline. So judges don't just issue orders fiat like as if they are just thinking from their left side of their bed. So we need all as a people now, that's where it's now come. How do people now maintain law and order? We have reckless Nigerians that we have in the public there. Everybody is now a law in their own cause. Do you know who I am? Do you know the position I have? This is a cliche that have wronged so many people. So Nigerians now ought to be more patriotic. We need to have discipline. Programs on TV that will instill discipline. We need more of those knowledge-bridging programs. Law and you can be promoted. A lot of things that people ought to know daily. People don't know about tax. When government is introducing tax, now they are seeing it from the angle of wickedness. And it's not wickedness. Tax is for development of the state. Okay. But if it is not properly introduced to the people with proper education from primary, secondary, and tertiary institution, they need to be teaching law as a pivot. So those are part of my advice to the government.
We thank you so much for breaking down this important topic here with us on the conversation, Lagos politics and separation of powers. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Oladotun Hassan, lawyer and president, Yoruba Council Worldwide. Thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure to be here.
The program continues shortly. Stay with us.
The views expressed on this program do not represent that of the producer, management of Lagos Television, or the Lagos State Government. They remain the perspectives of those expressing them. Thank you for staying with Lagos Television.